Alrighty, everybody, welcome back from lunch. It's my enormous pleasure to introduce Rick Goody, who is going to be talking about software update, everybody's favorite piece of Apple management. Go for it, Rick.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around till Friday after lunch. Long-time listener, first-time caller. So I think this is my only second public presentation, so bear with me. I'll also give you a pre-warning if you get affected by historic images, look away, I'll give you some warning. Okay, so as Marcus said, my name is Rick. I'm from Jamf. I've been in the Mac admin community about 18 years. I've always felt that what I have to say, my peers already know. However, working in Jamf for the past 18 years, at Jamf for the past 18 months, I've had this conversation a lot. So I thought this would be a great presentation, one, to share, but two, so I can recall back to and point customers to. So as a customer success engineer, I'm the technical escalation for our customer success team. So I help customers with workflows and trying to implement some of the more abnormal or uncommon things that go outside. So what I'd like to cover is getting to Sonoma. So this has been documented many times, some of the challenges, the idea of the title, getting to the promised land. Apple put software update into declarative device management, just like Marcus went through. So how can we get there? Okay. So first of all, I'm going to have a look at some of the challenges. And again, if you're triggered, please look away. Okay, so my transitions are not as great as the timelines that we've seen this couple of days. But again, if you've been in the community a long time, we had software update server. Yes, I'm aware software update server came in Tiger. The screenshot was the first book I actually had. We also had other tools like Reposado, Jamf Sus or NetSus. So again, ways of trying to communicate and keep the updates and deploy them out to other machines. Okay, those used to get deployed out via local MCX. You could do a default write. As we evolved, you got MDM commands and profiles. Okay. Apple then started to become more mobile. So back in the day, we used to know where machines were. Okay, they were in the office. Everyone used to be able to say, right, okay, that's there. Don't have to worry about it. But with the introduction of laptops, iPads, iPhones, we obviously had to manage more, and you don't know where the device is going to be. So how can you effectively and trigger an update? So Apple released caching server. So great technology when implemented correctly. I'm from Perth. We have a couple of large education institutes, and Apple's like, yep, let's go and set up caching server. It's great. Didn't really kind of think about the kind of connected networks. So when you set up a caching server in, say, Geraldton, which is, I don't know, a day's drive, and it's all on one external IP address, and then Apple releases an update, and then every school out of the 146 schools that are running Apple devices decides to try and pull an update. It's like, oh, you have a caching server on your network. That's really nice. So fun times. And then as it's evolved, anyone can set it up. So originally it came as a part of the server product and then went into system settings. So challenges. We also moved from an approved status. So when we had software update, we would approve, if we were running software update server, we would approve an update. Now we changed to a delay status. So you can delay an update, major, minor, for up to 90 days. So again, getting up to the next major OS. We've gone from days of a DVD that you used to have to go out and buy. Apple then started giving it to us free on the App Store. And then they just moved it into system settings. So trying to confuse the user. It's just an update. Again, other challenges. Are your users admin? Are they standard? There's obviously lots of discussion around what's best. How you start out, you've got Jamf Connect, where they're created. Again, it's not as simple as just being an admin or a standard user. Yeah. There's a great talk by Ben Toms at JNUC 2022. So again, knowing the challenges of admin, standard, secure, bootstrap, volume ownership is something you need to know and consider. So, Anvil, horse, sort of dropped there, had to bring it in. So wrapping up, it's generally pretty challenging, especially when you look at all the history. So a lot of the people I see around the room, some I recognize from previous talks, they've been around a long time. They know some of these challenges. Some of the people this presentation is being talked to is new admins. Every week I have the conversation about people that are taking over Apple devices. They don't know, they got 30 devices in the company. How do they deal with these? They've been asked to kind of roll it as part of they're a Windows admin, they're a network admin. They want to start bringing it in. So again, this is where I'm talking to. So again, last year, Tom Bridge did a great talk about where we're going, where we've been, and he gave us a wish list of what he wanted software update to be. Okay, so this was his wish list. Apple listened or are already working on it. They've heard the community. So deadlines for install. Yes, Marcus covered it really well earlier, how we can, once we get to Sonoma, we can then set it, okay? Close the deferral gaps. Again, because Apple is doing their magic, they can override things like focus modes. People can't get around it. They can sort of, and I'll share something, but triggered by MDM, customizable, sort of. Again, Apple take care of this. We can't customize it the way we want to, but it's better than what it was. Install later should apply to major upgrades. I'm hoping that's going to happen. We haven't seen a major upgrade since Sonoma. We'll find out, but I'm expecting it should. Take over the job of nudge or super. Yes, it sort of does. No, it sort of doesn't. Because my belief is users and companies choose Apple for that experience. We as Mac admins are there to enhance and take that experience from when they open the box, their user enrollment, their onboarding mechanism, to finishing and return to service like Emily did, or obliterate on a Mac, offboarding. So we want to make sure that we see that through. So again, does it take over? Sort of not. Again, calling out some specific things. If you haven't seen the sessions, our favorite session for Mac admins is what's new in managing Apple devices. They introduced it 1 year after they kind of went more dev. We had kind of a couple of years where there was nothing for the Mac admins at DubDub. So, but it's clear to see, as Marcus talked about earlier, going to declarative device management. And again, my talk is about getting there. So the solutions. What I'm going to go through is some of the major solutions and how they can be used, the different ways they can be used, and who they're for, because every company is different, every school, environment, user. There's no one right process for everyone, okay? So I kind of highlight here some of the device states that we have. Education, labs, okay? We know where the machines are. We know in theory when they're going to be on, when they're going to be off, when they're going to be used, when they're not going to be used. Sort of easy to kind of schedule and plan for those updates. We then have one-to-one. So again, very similar, corporate, laptop. Again, they could still be an iMac, desktop, could be a laptop, we don't know, okay? We then go corporate. So we have our standard users, which again, could be a mix of the lab or the one-to-one environment. Again, there's some cross things. Education, you've got whether they're admins, whether they're not admins. Corporate, same conversation. And then I kind of put their edge cases. So typically one-to-one developers, they want beta software. They have admin access. Well, you have graphics users. I have customers that are still stuck on Big Sur because their newspaper software that they use, all the plugins and that kind of weird compatibility table doesn't allow them to upgrade. Like they're at the moment, I think they're holding off for one plugin so they don't have to have InDesign in Rosetta mode, because InDesign in Rosetta mode sucks because it's the plugin that's not compatible, not InDesign. So again, we have all these edge cases. And again, this is not one size fits all. So Apple want us to use MDM commands. That was very specific. I think, I can't remember the exact time they took out allowing you to use software update command unless you had a MDM enabled, okay? And again, I remember back in the day, I could use a policy to run software update -L, A, I, A, R, all the different types, okay? So I could do that quite easily. Apple do not want you to use this, okay? So they want us to do MDM commands, but what are they good for? I think they're actually quite good at downloading the updates. I don't think they're very good at applying the updates. They are also not good at making a workflow and providing good notification to the users. So a couple of key things. Like I kind of called out earlier with on Marcus's, or not called out, but asked, that kind of dance as the Apple ecosystem has evolved. We have things that come in at certain points. So again, depending on where you are, depending on what you can take advantage of. And again, while it's not an MDM command, macOS 14, it's a statement or a declaration as that's where we want to be. So again, that's where we're trying to get to. So let's get into some of the tools. Nudge by Eric Gomez. I'm pretty sure, or okay, originally by Eric Gomez, he has then put it under the stewardship of the Mac admins community. It's now on the Mac admins GitHub. But it is a lightweight MDM independent tool that is managed by MSEX defaults or a MDM profile that will nudge people to do an update, okay? Who's it good for? One-to-one devices where a user is an admin star. Again, Apple change, you allow people to do a software upgrade last time if they had a secure token, but they were a standard user. Again, lots of people kind of got in tricks. Really good for ongoing updates. I also think it's good for triggering other methods. So right at the end, I'm going to piece together some of the different workflows and how we can actually expand it all. So not good for labs and shared devices. And what it's not is it's not a tool to actually perform the update. It's pointing you to do something else. So open system preferences and actually do the updates. Okay. How it's broken down is, again, from the preferences, it's split into, I see 4 distinct options. Your version requirements, your UX, UI, and your optional features. Again, you can customize it to your own environment, okay? But what does it look like? Here is a plist, and again, I've broken it down, optional features, so ability to kind of bypass if someone's in a Zoom, doing screen sharing, camera, OS features, so again, specifically targeting a OS version. UX, deferrals, UI, I can put my nice images in, so I can brand it. So this is an example of what it could look like. My favorite IT company. So this is what it looks like, okay? So very simple. At the end, I have a QR code where I put all the links to some talks on the people that have written those tools. So I've used and consumed all these tools many, many times. I'm not clever enough to write these tools, but I consume. So I have in my resources at the end specific links. So at the end, there's a big QR code where I've highlighted everything. Next, Arrays installed by Graham Pugh. So what is it? It is a script that essentially automates the process of using the start OS install command. So this is a command that Apple brought in as part of the it came as an app instead of a software update in system preferences. So you download the app from the App Store, and then you had deep inside contents, resources, start OS install. You also have create USB media as well. So again, before this, you would manually do it. This basically automates the process, and it gives some really good notification. Moved from what he was using before. I think he used Jamf Helper. He's now gone to Swift Dialog by Bart. Again, we'll hear about Bart stuff. We've heard about it all day, every day. It's awesome. What it's really good for? Labs and shared devices. Okay, because it's literally just triggering that thing, the Start OS install. Okay, my opinion is this is what I recommend for major updates. So, what it's not good for? Minor updates. So, because every time it is doing the Start OS install. So, minor updates we can handle with a nudge. We can handle MDM if the command works, or we can handle it with the next tool that I'm going to go on to. So yeah, those are what it's good for, what it's not good for. Again, the key sections, what it does, it downloads and you can call a specific tool, specific version. He's moved from using software, he still uses the software update command as a backup, but he's now moved to Nindigill's Mist CLI. So again, searching for the specific version for the specific device that you're running on. Again, with the change of Apple Silicon, Apple kind of brought in this hardware specific installers, updates. So again, on the device, checking it's got the right update or the right version that you want to go to, okay? It's also got all the checks. So again, silicon, drive space, battery, is it plugged into power? And nice notification, okay? We can also use it for erasing as well. So not just updating, you could put it in a return to service. I think that, again, that's what it was originally for. It was originally written as a return to service. And I think if you check out one of his comments or requests, is like, can we change the script name? Because it's not, most people don't use it for erasing anymore. They use it for upgrading. It's like, it's 3,000 lines long, 4,000 lines long. I'm not changing all the references back. It's just going to stay as it is. So fair play to him. I wouldn't be changing it. So again, what does it look like? We've got these beautiful notifications to users. So you can see what's happening at each point in time. They get the ability to approve it. You can build in deferrals. So if there's not time, give them, like, please plug in. So doing all its checks. Again, got the ability to prompt for credentials if we are not storing Bootstrap or all the different requirements have been met, okay? Then we have Superman by Kevin White. So the first two tools, MDM agnostic, doesn't make any difference. They are managed via a config profile, or they're a script that can be deployed locally on a device or through a command policy, whatever your MDM does, okay? Superman by Kevin White is kind of I see he's wrapping everything up together, but it's leveraging specifically the Jamf Pro API. He's modernized it. It's gone from version 1 through to 4 now. It now takes advantage of the new managed software update, so it can do DDM. It kind of works everything out. But it is, again, it's another 4,000, 5,000 line script that is doing all the checks and balances to automate calling the API command, because not everyone's an API whiz. Not everyone has time to understand and learn, pass, all that sort of thing. So again, my opinion is it's great for one-to-one devices. It's great for macOS minor updates, ongoing recurring, enforcing deadlines. Don't believe it's great for lab or shared because of the notifications, okay? And I think that's my one thing about the Superman is the notifications can be very easily dismissed, ignored, put up to the side. It's very reliant on those MDM commands. So um, what doesn't it do? Very little these days. So again, workflow options. He's moved to the Mist CLI. He's using IBM Helper. Is it IBM Helper? No, IBM Notifier for his notifications. So not as rich. They're always up in the top right if the default. A lot better at deferral timing. You've got a lot more options. You've got soft deadlines. You've got hard deadlines. You've got various checks. In version 4 is like a recurring thing. So previously it used to be a one-time command and you'd send it whenever you're ready. Again, he's updated that. You got days. So again, what does Superman look like? So we have our config profile. And again, this can be managed as a config profile. It can be managed as local defaults rights, or everything can be sent out in the command. But in my opinion, experience, anything that's not going to change, put it as a config profile. If you want it branded, put that there, call to it. I always have library, application support, company name, company assets in there. So I can use it across multiple places. Again, I set my default. What are my default deferrals? How many do I give them? Do I give them 30 minutes, a day, 2 days? I kind of define this. I define my image. Do I want to do minor or major updates? Yes. I've also got the workflow disable relaunch. So in version 4, he introduced it as a ongoing check. So it checks every 6 hours. Okay, so useful or not useful, depending on your update policy. Okay. And then this is what it looks like. Again, my favorite IT company giving me some options, whether I restart. And again, the workflow behind it is it kind of goes off, does a check, then it then does another check, it downloads, it's using the MDM command. So everything's done by MDM command. So again, there's a slight delay. You can configure it to download before it actually prompts you. So again, you want to try and make sure that everything is as seamless as possible to the user. They're not sitting waiting there for 10 minutes. They say, update. Okay, cool. Now I've got to download it. So again, it uses that pre-update before it kind of notifies the user. So it tries to minimize that experience. And again, tells you what's going to happen. It's a lot less customization with his notifications as well, I find. So from there's more and more it's evolved. On version 4, there's a lot more that can be changed and kind of branded. But there's a little bit less. It pulls the information. If there's multiple software updates, so you're doing a Safari, a macOS update, you've got Safari Developer Preview Edition, it kind of populates that. So those are the 3 main tools. There have been other tools in the past. I think a lot of them have been superseded. They've kind of evolved. So I'm not really going to go into them too much, but there's a long history of people kind of downloading and applying the updates. So trying to put them together. So I go back to my three little or 4 kind of pillars of devices. So education labs and corporate shared devices are kind of very similar. We know where they're going to be. So recommend using the erase install, prepare it, download it, make a policy, make a smart group to pre-download everything, okay? Because we know where the device is, we know when it's going to be used, we could do this at the weekend. You could create a policy that only runs on Saturday and Sunday when the device is out of use, okay? So that's one of the advantages of this, okay? You can run it as a policy, as a script. Don't even have to notify the user because they're not actually using the device, okay? So as I say, we prepare it, we download it, we put it in smart groups. Oops. We deploy it and we can schedule it. Nice and simple, okay? An admin user. I tend to use Nudge because they're an admin. They can actually do their own updates. If we've got a deferral policy in, they're only going to see the deferred updates, okay? We can use Super and we can use erase install. All 3 of them are valid methods, okay? There's no right or wrong, Again, it's what experience you want to have. Okay. Um, then we have the kind of non-admin. So this is how a non-admin arrays install could work. So we start off by, again, preparing, choosing the OS we're going to go to. We could then deploy nudge. But what we do is we use nudge and change the action button. And the action button, rather than going to system preferences, takes you to a self-service policy. So they're going to constantly get nudged and nudged and nudged until they're ready. Once they're ready, they can open the self-service policy, run it. It will do the checks, bring up the nice notifications. So a very seamless workflow, which is very good and easy for the users to consume. We can do exactly the same with Super, almost all in one though. So Super will prepare and download its upgrade. It can then, as soon as it's ready, it will notify the users. Or we can run it as a workflow only download. Okay. With that method, we're going to send it over to self-service. And once self-service says, yes, I'm ready, then I can do the install. Again, trying to bring a flow into it. Okay, piecing this all together. Again, for minor updates, Superman is my preference. So generally, I will always say Super for minor, OS arrays install for major. Again, the notifications around Super can be a little, you get to 5, you're going to get enforced. You don't really know what they're doing at the time. And yes, we can put some changes in. Don't do it when they're running a Zoom call. Don't do it when they're screen sharing. But again, you have that hard deadline on a laptop. You have no control over it. I just prefer giving them more and more control, using nudge to go into aggressive mode. So where we start taking control full screen rather than enforcing a major update, okay? Because yeah, you have no idea where they're doing, what they're doing. Yes, there are checks on battery, but again, have they saved their work? It gets quite obtrusive, should I say, and uncompromising. Putting everything together. So we could use all the tools, okay? We could use arrays install to download and prepare, use the notifications, then take it over to nudge to do a self-service policy to then run Superman to run the updates. It can all be pieced together, okay? There's nothing to say that's the right or wrong method. It's whatever suits you guys best, okay? So a couple of things I found out while testing, okay? One of the things that Kevin recommends is hiding the notifications for software updates, okay? So users aren't notified when there's a new software update. This is great. Remember to take it away once you get to Sonoma, because those are the same notifications that are used for the 30-day, 15-day, 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, all 60 seconds. So again, I was testing this as I got it up to work and I was like, why am I not getting any notifications? I was following the same process as markers, looking through the logs. I can see all these things coming in. And I'm like, where are my notifications? Then I realized I still have my Superman config, which was hiding my notifications. Okay. Again, version 4, Kevin added in a automatic check. So if you want to just ensure your devices are up to date, it does its own process every 6 hours and it will continue to check, which is great. If you're in an environment that you want to hold off your updates, that you want to control when they're sent out, so maybe you've got to do some checks, you've got change management, turning off that function so it just doesn't run every 6 hours. And that can be either done as a command or part of your plist. So it's a one-time command. You would have a policy that run my workflow. Because if you don't have that, as soon as you run one workflow, it just auto launches every 6 hours in the background, does a check, downloads, which is good and bad. Again, sorry, you can't help, which is good and bad depending on your environment. Another thing I found out while putting all this together, if you do choose to run OS upgrades via Arrays install, but miners for Superman, if you decide to, and again, it's kind of linked to the top one, disable up major upgrades in Superman. When it does that check and does it every 6 hours, if it sees an OS installer, it deletes it. So I was like, right, okay, I've got this. We download. I have a smart group that says, who needs the Sonoma update? Yep, Arrays install download. Okay. I then have a smart group that says, anyone who's got the installer cached, apply the self-service policy and give them a notification. Cool, they've got a notification. They get the notification, I notify them day after day. But 6 hours later, Superman would run and delete my install or my installer. So then the users would download, go open up self-service, like, I can't find the policy. I'm like, where's it gone? What's it doing? Is my antivirus, is CrowdStrike, is something picking up? Is there an old software update restricted software? Have I left one of the old blocking mechanisms on there? And then it's just like, just had to wait. And then I worked it out. It's deleting my update. So again, if you're putting this stuff together, again, know the limitations. The last one is not what I found. Who here is in education? Who here is on a 4-year lease for their devices for students? Anyone? 3? Have all your users upgraded to, say, because if they're on 3-year, chances are they're on Big Sur, Monterey. Yep. 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 Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so labs are all up to date, staff are on a mixture for the recording. What I found is, especially schools that kind of went one-to-one, again, keeping costs down, MacBook Air for students, 3 to 4 year lease. They're on Big Sur potentially still, okay? Limited space, kids don't do as they're told. A lot of schools are on Microsoft, popular choice. They're also using Teams heavily now because that's what Microsoft are pushing. So is it June 1st? Teams Classic is getting deprecated. Teams Classic, or the modern Teams, is only supported on 1UP from that. So your users are potentially having to do this upgrade, otherwise they're not going to be able to use Teams because modern Teams is only supported, I think it's Monterey or Ventura, I can't remember. I think it's N-2 and I'll show you. So again, if you're in this situation, this is another reason for this presentation, because I tend to have this talk maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks with various customers. So that is me piecing everything together, explaining the different tools, trying to give you my opinion on what I think you should use. As I said, I'm definitely not clever to write some of these tools, and I have a QR code that links to everything that I've specified. So we have the specific talks by using Nudge, using Arrays install, using Super by the people that wrote it, plus all the other things like Ben Toms's talk on secure token, volume ownership, Xworld talk from Tom Bridge last year. All the links are up there just on one QR code. So with that, I will say thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try and answer.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you for the talk. With Erase install, if I've got one user left who doesn't have a secure token on their machine, so
Yes.
I could use the Erase install workflow to basically bolt
Yes,
a
there
update
is.
on top of them, and then
Yeah, there is a, as he kind of classifies, unsecured pass-through credentials. Again, depending on the, when you say there's no secure token, do we have a bootstrap?
there was just yeah. I know. I was going to rebuild, but he's in another state.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! Thank you. I just
yeah, road trip. Is it time for a new machine and swap him out? Like bring out the old and it's goes into the lone pool.
Coffee with lots of sugar is a good way to get hardware replacements.
Hey, I noticed with a Raise install, it did obviously have the prompt for the user credentials.
Yes.
I assume that is normally regarding the Bootstrap token to kind of pass that through to the installer. Is that right?
So when you use if you actually look at the start OS install command, so with some, again, trying to remember the different versions, there's a point where you had to kind of authenticate and then you had to authenticate twice and you can kind of cat the credentials through. That's essentially what it's doing, because essentially all it's doing is running that start OS install with the kind of commands that you pass. So where it's prompting, it's just passing those information into the script.
And
or into the command.
yeah, for standard users, they can do major installs now. My experience, they couldn't.
So what was it? Is it the Sonoma update?
I think it's Sonoma.
And again, this is the dance between you had standard users could do a major update if they had a secure token.
Yeah.
If they had volume ownership. There's again, and this is where not everyone's the same, because for example, first user created at the login window is going to get a secure token. Potentially you're using AD binding. Secure token. Yeah. Jamf Connect, not getting a secure token. At the setup assistant, but so for again, pre-stage enrollment, trying to remember all the different permutations. So there are lots of weird permutations.
Yes. So realistically, for standard users, the main way forward is with something like Superman that uses the MDM commands, which can get around that.
If you've got a bootstrap token, and again, that's why I say it does everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, potentially piecing those things together is a really good way of kind of like, again, use a Raise install to kind of pre-download, and then use Nudge, and then use self-service, or you could go straight from a Raise install, or you just use Superman. My preference is with Superman because of the way the notifications display and the way they can be kind of like ignored, and you don't have that control over when the deadline hits. That's the challenge I find. So
thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Rick.
Awesome. Thank you very much.